Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Form Check Friday, the show where we take your videos, put them on this little TV, and then we give you some tips and tricks on how you can lift more weight more efficiently. Dylan says it's a big TV. Our first submission here comes from Ishwar, and Ishwar is doing some squats. He says this is his first time in ollie shoes. He's got kind of adjusting to that feeling, I guess. So first off, basic squat mechanics, specifically for the first few reps, look really good. What happens after a while though is we start to get really loose in the hole, we start to get a little bit inconsistent with the depth. Now, one thing that I would try to get you to do is to be a little bit tighter and more controlled and maintain more contraction when you're in the bottom of your squat. This is probably going to cause you to squat a little bit higher, but I think that's okay. I think we can afford just a little bit less depth for the sake of more tightness. As you go through the set and you start to fatigue, that extra depth and that looseness leads to a fair bit of inconsistency. Some reps were kind of getting pitched forward just a little bit. So I would, again, that would be the biggest thing that I would work on, is being a little bit tighter, more controlled in the bottom. A couple exercises you could do to help with this would be something like a tempo squat, so 3 seconds down, 3 seconds up, or a pause squat, or some combination of both, where you're maybe using a tempo as well as pausing in the bottom. Those movements should help you feel out the bottom, become more comfortable in the position, and ideally learn to be tighter and more controlled. Our next video submission comes from Suhail. He's also doing some squats and also having a similar problem. As you can see, as we go through the reps, the depth is somewhat inconsistent. We're fairly loose at the bottom, and it's resulting in some pretty pronounced knee cave, getting pulled forward out of the hole, those kinds of things. Now, in Suhail's case, it looks like, again, we're kind of running into the issue of getting loose in the bottom and inconsistent. And I think that's something that's worth maybe discussing. So I think a lot of times people tend to prioritize depth over tightness. Obviously, the opposite is definitely true in some cases where we're staying tight, but not quite at depth. In these two cases, we're definitely getting too much depth. I think too much depth is definitely a thing, and I think specifically in a lot of people who maybe watch IPF or subscribe to the sort of IPF notion that depth is, this sort of be-all, end-all thing. We can get caught up in too much depth. Now, we really just need the hip crease to go below the top of the knee. We need to break parallel for that little dip, and that is it. In this case, and in the previous lifter's case, we're definitely getting too much depth. We're sacrificing contraction, we're sacrificing tightness, and we're sacrificing positioning. And that's leading to a difficulty in the squats. In Suhail's case, I would take that monolift that you're in, I would try to attach some chains or some catch straps or something like that, and I would probably do some sort of pin squat. It looks like specifically as you come out of the hole, we're really getting pulled forward. We have that tendency to kind of collapse with the upper body, and that's something that pin squats can really help with. So I would recommend doing some pin squats, working on cutting your depth a little bit, and again, being more contracted, more controlled, and in better position as you go into and out of the bottom of the range of motion. Our next video submission comes from Cam Scott, and he's doing some deadlifts. Now, we can see he's lifting in a conventional pattern, and we can also kind of see a couple deficiencies acting up right off the bat. So his initial rep, the shoulders are coming unglued, so we're seeing the shoulder blades pulled forward, seeing some rounding in the back and some of those kind of things. The other thing that I think actually plays into that is Cam's also doing touch and go deadlifts, which is something for most powerlifters I would advocate against in most scenarios, especially if that's your competition movement. If you have a competition movement deadlift and you have a touch and go deadlift movement and you find those are beneficial, that's totally fine. But I think we should practice the way we play, and in a lot of cases, make sure that we're doing dead stop deadlifts. In Cam's case, I think the fact that we're losing position right off the floor might be a reflection of the fact that in most cases, we're skipping that part of the range of motion by touch and going the reps. So, lock your back in, lock those lats on and shoulder blades in place. Be a little more patient so that we're maintaining that back position, the shoulder position as we initiate the movement. Don't let yourself get pulled forward. Don't let your back get pulled out of position. And as well, make sure you dead stop your deadlifts. That's going to help a lot in terms of learning the pattern off the floor, as well as getting stronger off the floor, which is the position where we're losing the most technique. We're losing the most leverage by losing our position in that bottom. So try that out. and hopefully it helps you, my man. Our next submission is some more deadlifts, these time sumo deadlifts from Adam Hemphill. Now, Adam, like I said, is doing sumo deadlifts here. He said he just switched to sumo. It's way more comfortable. His back doesn't bug him anymore, and he's looking to compete in the fall. So the biggest thing and probably only issue I'm seeing here is just not finishing the lockout. It looks like you're stopping a little bit short and a little bit forward at the top of your lift. And what I would try to do is make sure that as you come up past the top, squeeze your glutes, pull the lats, and make sure the shoulders end up in line with the hips from the side. Now, I would film some of your deadlifts from the side so we can see if this is actually going on, because really, it's kind of taking an educated guess that it looks like you're kind of locking out a little bit shy here. Especially with heavy weights, if you're not used to that last inch of the range of motion, that can come back and bite you in the ass at a competition, and you can get called for a soft lockout, which is not something I want to happen to you, Adam. So film some deadlifts from the side, make sure that you're selling the lockout, keep the knees locked, push the hips through, get those shoulders in line with the hips from the side angle, and make sure we're locked out. Other than that, your patience, the general technique, the movement itself, the timing, all looks very, very good. Just sell those lockouts so you don't get called for it in a meet. Our last submission here is some bench press from Joaquin. Now, Joaquin has a pretty damn good setup. He's got a good arch. Generally speaking, his bar is not really sinking, although he criticizes himself for sinking too much on this set. I don't really think that that's a big issue. The biggest thing I think here, and when he gets up to heavier weights, he has a hard time with getting a consistent touch and getting a consistent press. Now, the biggest thing that I would probably recommend Joaquin try is more of bringing the bar back, especially in that nice big arch position. You can really get a lot of advantage from bringing that bar back over the shoulders a little bit more as you initiate the lift. He says he has a hard time keeping his shoulders glued in, and one thing that'll happen when we start to press straight up is the bar may start to drift out, and a lot of times we'll see that shoulder blade kind of creep up at the same time. So, Joaquin, when you initiate your press, think more about bringing that bar back as the first motion and then pressing straight up. Bring that bar back off the chest, try to take advantage of the leverage position you can put yourself in with that nice big arch, and I think that's going to help get things a little bit more consistent for you with those heavier reps. That's about it for me today, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Form Check Friday. Be sure and hit the like button if you liked it. Share it with your friends if you were in the video, or if you found some tips in here valuable. If you guys are looking to submit your videos to Form Check Friday, go ahead and send those to formcheckfriday@gmail.com. We take a random number generator. We try to pick a couple squats, a couple deadlifts, maybe one bench, or some combination of the 3 lifts. And we just randomly pick them out, throw them in the video, and that's kind of how we come up with everything. So everybody kind of gets a fair shake at things as well. Try and stay posted and stay tuned for our Calgary Barbell Live, which is something where we do a fair number of form checks now. Again, we haven't really firmed a date or a regular day of the week or time or anything like that, so just kind of stay tuned. We'll be posting it on our community page on YouTube, as well as giving you guys the links on Instagram. If you're interested in following us on Instagram, you can follow Calgary Barbell at Calgary Barbell, and you can follow myself at Bryce Krawczyk. Super annoying, lots of consonants in my last name, but go ahead and just look it up on there. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned for some cool apparel. It's coming soon. And bye-bye.